Absolute Green Lantern, issue 15, Al Ewing writing with Sid Kotyan on the art. So this issue starts with a mid-fight with the Black Hands, Black Hand Salik and that, fighting with John and Guy, and it's an interesting fight because, again, the rules exactly of how all the powers work right now is still a little emerging. We don't really exactly necessarily have it all nailed down. I will say I was not expecting Salik's face to get half melted off by Guy's stomach acid, because I was like, what the hell is he doing? And he's like, oh yeah, my stomach has acid in it, so I just sort of mutated like the thing and had like a big tentacle go out and sprayed acid on him.
Yeah, was not expecting Cronenbergian body horror here, where he takes his stomach and inverts it and throws stomach or sulfuric acid on Salik's face. So, which is actually pretty cool, right? Because if you have a ring that is all about full control, why can't you do that? You know?
Well, in the regular universe, I'd say you can't, because it's all about making, physical objects and constructs. But I guess here, because that's the other thing that's implied. So he mutates his body to do that with the red light. Later on, like when Joe, the back half of the issue is all Joe and
Tomar Ray,
inside the Green Lantern, and he basically talks about how, the constructs aren't just physical, they can also be mental. And he's kind of like messing with her head by using powers, and he's pissed that she's not agreeing to let, all the civilians that are trapped in the ship be used as ammunition to fire upon Mogo, who's coming towards Earth. She's fighting against that. And Tomar Ray's like, you've barely started to learn to use that ring. You don't know what to do. If I just make a box around you, you'll eventually just lose all control and won't be able to survive, and I'll just win. But when he tries to chain her up, the big moment comes where she's like, oh no, the first thing I learned to do was to like go unsolid. Which I thought was a weird way of saying incorporeal, but I guess like I thought it was a neater word. So she just sort of phases out of it and kind of wins, and like Tomar Ray's like dumbfounded by the fact that she's so adept at this already.
Yeah, I like what Ewing does here with the way that they're both anomalies and they think about things differently, but he's still, because he's a Red Lantern, right? It's still all about that control. And so everything with him is he puts her in a box, puts her in a maze of her own, of her mind and all this other stuff. But with the anomaly that is Joe, she doesn't know like all the rules and stuff. So for her, anything's possible. So when she phases through his chains and breaks through that kind of control, and the way that Kotyan ends up drawing her is this big, like she phases through the box, and then she becomes like bigger than Tomar Ray, like this light giant, and then puts him in her cage, right? Which isn't a box, right? It's the way that
it's a bird cage.
She's thinking, it's a bird cage, right? But like it's not as simple as just, I put him in a box. There's a symbolism to all of it, and it, and it just shows how the green is different than the red. I was gonna
say there's a lot of a lot of this stuff, aside from the physical powers that they're throwing at each other and all the trapping in boxes and bird cages and phasing through chains and all that. The debate that they're having is effectively Tomar Ray's like, it sucks that I'm going to kill 2,000 like Earthlings to beat Mogo, but like, hey, that'll save the entire universe. Trillions of lives will be saved. Is that not worth it? And by the way, I've looked into your head. You don't like these people very much, and they didn't like you. You they kind of mistreated you, and so on. Like, why are you trying to save these people specifically? So that was an interesting just sort of debate to have, and obviously she's a hero, so she's not going to just accept that. And she's like, no, we'll find out another way, even though this would be a solution. The other thing we find out, though, is part of the plan is that Mogo being a sentient being, and it let the presence in the Dark Star that took over it. Basically, it's so big and it has to sort of like maintain so much control that firing all the people at it, the point of that is for it to sort of lose focus, because if it ever loses focus, then it can't get focus back and it can be defeated. And that's what his plan seems to be, as best as I understood it anyway, because this book throws a lot of concepts at you. I'm trying to keep up.
And it's so heady, and it's trying to keep all of the different levels together and the difference in the Tomars and the Ein and like, and I say Ewing does a pretty good job, but still it's a little bit overwhelming. And so when they set up the black energy, the dark energy, it needs Mogo has to have its full attention to keep moving. So the last time it essentially Mogo blinked, the Dark Star stuff happened. And so Tomar wants to disrupt that again, right? And that's why he's going to fire all the people. And his big argument of needs of the many outweigh the needs of the few. And I do like that Joe's just like, no, we're not doing that. As long as I can, do what I need to do, then I'm going to do what I can to stop you. Right. So it doesn't even do the whole villain hero spectrum. Right. Because at the end of the day, Tomar Ray is trying to do something that he thinks is heroic, but it's not heroic to Joe or any of that type of stuff. Right. Because he is trying to save the galaxy from, the dark energy or whatever. But he's become one of her antagonists.
Yeah. And then as Mogo approaches the Green Lantern, the voice starts speaking out to the Tomars. You're anomalies, you're abominations, you're marked for death on the orders of the controller of Mu. Learn his name and learn your sentence. So obviously we kind of teased last time who the controller of Mu was, but here it really spells it out. It's like Sin means the absence, S means the essence of each sentient being, Tro, to attain freedom, Sinestro, learn the meaning, and then, the final page, the big splash page of Sinestro like taking off his mask and he's inside like a dome sort of mechanical looking outfit, and he just says no one escapes, and it's colored yellow, so he's got the gold light. So
there's that, and the definition of Sinestro, when you put it together, right, the absence of the essence of each sentient being to attain freedom, sounds an awful lot like anti-life. Right?
Yeah. And
then we get there. I know that they're trying to invoke Manhunter because he says no one escapes. Yeah. And that's all that also looking like Darkseid, right? It's the big dome head.
The dome.
Right?
Yeah.
The square, and all that. So again, doing stuff on multiple levels and exceeding at them.
But also, I mean, correct me if I'm wrong, but it looks like he's like a robot or something, because he's got all these like sort of mechanical looking parts in half of his face, as if it's like missing, and you can see the wiring or whatever, the circuitry. So
yeah, it's almost like he's a cyborg of some kind, where there's part biological still there, but it's also mechanical, right? So that's what I was saying. It's kind of invoking the Manhunters as well. With that look, with like the mask, it feels
like it's mashing a lot of the Green Lantern concepts together. There's Manhunters in here. There's Black Hand. There's Dark Stars. There's Sinestro, and all of it's kind of wrapped up into a ball of some kind. That
with a bow that is anti-life and Darkseid because it's the Absolute Universe still.
Yeah.
So, but yeah, this book is overwhelming, but I don't say that as a knock. There's a lot going on, and then there's the whole thing with Hal. And the violet energy that nobody understands.
Yeah,
it seems to confound even John and Guy.
Yeah, he doesn't know how to use that yet. He says he's like barely like staying alive in space, and then someone points out, "Oh no, that's actually the Green Lantern that's doing that." If we turn that off, and we're going to, you're just going to asphyxiate, and that's you gone.
Yeah.
So yeah, we'll see if Hal discovers how to actually use those powers and what he can do with them.
Yeah. And then the other thing Ewing gets at with the gold power is that the gold power seems very passive, in that because it's very intentional and it takes a lot of thought, is that in order to fight John Stewart, the Dark Stars essentially just have to keep him philosophizing, And so I thought that was a very interesting way to show that, right?
Yeah, it was basically because gold's all about knowledge. So if you keep focused on your knowledge, you can't actually like fight. Like you'll be too trapped in the debate in your head or whatever. Like, that was an interesting concept to throw in as well. It's a lot to take in, and I don't know how much of this I'm going to remember, for future issues. But hopefully, Ewing keeps reiterating some of this stuff, and it kind of sinks in a little bit better, for sure. But Yeah, I will say I miss the Earth stuff a little bit. I miss seeing Cameron and Baz and some of that stuff.
Yeah.
But I'm sure we'll get back to that in due time. I suspect there's at least one more issue sort of doing this stuff in space before maybe we go back.
Yeah.
Maybe a couple even. But
To see what's going on there, yeah. So the colorist here is Prasad Rao. And I gotta say, all the different colors being used here, like when Joe is stuck in the like maze that is all the red, you know, just the green on the red pops, and those are two colors that don't go well together, right? Like they not competing, but they're not complementary. So, but they make it work because they're not complementary, you know. And then just all the vibrance with all the other colors, right? There's an early shot with all of the different lanterns. You know, you have the black, and there's the green, and there's the red, and there's the yellow, and all this other, and everything just looks great, and it really makes the Koshin's art really pop.
yeah, you know, the art's not necessarily, again, I've been saying this since the book started. The art is like, you know, it's good in some ways, but not to my taste in others. You know, like I think most of the time the faces can be a little bit not for me. I do think obviously it gets quite inventive with the layouts when we're doing the maze stuff and we're doing that kind of thing, which is just effectively in a black void, but all these splashes of red and green color. That stuff, you know, works, and there's a good sense of flow to it. And obviously you've got the body horror stuff with Guy and his stomach acid, which was a fun visual. But not without its dings, and not with like it's not like a complete home run for me as far as art goes, because it's not always quite clicking for me. But certainly not bad. So yeah, I mean, I think it's a good issue. I think I like what it's doing. I like all the stuff it's adding to the lore. I wouldn't say it's the best issue of the book by any stretch, though, just because it kind of felt a little bit like, okay, there's the fight outside the lantern with, you know, like John and Guy and like the enemies there, and then there's all the stuff with Joe and Tomari inside. And well, the debate and all the sort of the mythology stuff they kind of drop in there, which is quite interesting. It didn't necessarily have like the best flow of a comic ever, right? It was kind of like a big dump of a big scene. So, you know, I'll dock it a little bit for that when we rate it, which is pretty much now. So, what are you rating Absolute Green Lantern, Matt?
I'm gonna give this a 7.5.
Yeah, that's kind of what I was thinking about 7.5. So I guess I'm agreeing.